Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Now, today I've got a very special guest. It has been a little while since James has come on my channel. I know the last time we were speaking, we were talking about winning the league last season.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that didn't work out, but we're going to talk about the season so far, and we'll answer some of your questions too. But James, thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing?
Well, I've got a green tea and I'm a bit nasally and but I'm delighted to be here. And I'm in a very cold room. But I'm good. I'm good because I'm really looking forward to this chat. Um I've had a really good like 10 days. How long has it been since we played Liverpool? About 10 days, maybe a little bit less, a little bit
It's
more.
been so long. It feels like it's been
Yeah.
months.
Yeah, and I've really enjoyed the break. I think Arsenal needed it. I think the Arsenal
Yeah.
community needed it. Um, I haven't had that, and I mean this in a good way. I haven't been missing Arsenal. Like I felt this time was needed for everyone. And when you go out the cup and you kind of sit on it and you think, so we've had a few months straight of football, gone out of two cup competitions, lost ground in the title race. You actually think this is if we're going to go full throttle title race and Champions League, some time away is probably a good thing.
I'm really enjoying it. I know that sounds bad, but
No, I
because
get
of
it.
because of how things have been, I think for me, going out the cup really did it for me. Like, I know the few games weren't great for us in the league, and it was disappointing, but I really love the FA Cup, and when that happened, I just felt so like deflated. And
Yeah.
I feel like I really do hope the players after this break, feel more refreshed and ready to go because I feel like for me, if we lose or draw at Crystal Palace, like it's a must win for me. But for you, how are you feeling going to the game at the weekend?
Yeah, it's really interesting that you touched on Liverpool and the disappointment of going out that game. That see to a lot of people, the defeats to West Ham and Fulham will be the ones that hurt them the most because one was a home defeat to away. Well, there were games we should have won. They were in the league. We could be top right now. We could have been enjoying that position. Um, but the Liverpool one hurt because I think a lot of people miss. I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for everyone else.
Yeah,
But I think a lot of people misunderstood that my frustration to being out the FA Cup against Liverpool wasn't a case of we've lost a third game in a row, so I'm furious. It was actually adding that result to the West Ham Carabao Cup exit, the City FA Cup exit last season, who beat us in the Carabao Cup last year? I can't remember. Brighton at home. These are exits that are disappointing, but also feel fairly avoidable. Like, apart from City away, Villarreal in the semi-final, but we're going a few years back. Even, Southampton away in the FA Cup. We've had so many limp exits in these cup competitions that I take very seriously and I want us to
yeah,
win. So my frustration was that result being another in that long list of results rather than, the list of recent defeats, if that makes sense. So I was just I was very frustrated with the team because they played well enough as well. It's like, it's so weird when a team doesn't play well, you feel really like hurt that they kind of didn't leave out there and they didn't give their best or whatever. When they play really well and they still lose, especially for large parts of that game, especially the first half, you come away sort of thinking, I'm not mad at you, but I am I remember tweeting the word idiots, and some people got mad at me about that. And I thought, well, but they are like they should have won this game, and yeah, it was a disappointing day. So I haven't answered your question at all. You asked something completely different, but I just wanted to touch on that bit in terms.
don't blame me.
How am I feeling for Palace? I'm feeling good. I think the team are ready to bounce back. To be honest, I think the break's been good, like I
Yeah,
mentioned, and I think when you take a bit of a break like the team have had, and I don't mean a break where they go off and play for England and internationals or whatever, a real legitimate break as a team out together. I do think there's there's a good chance that the players come back with that almost siege mentality of, all right, we're the chasers now, and we have to turn up to save our season. I think we've got 5 months of football to do it.
yeah. I think for me, like you said, with the FA Cup game, I think it felt like a lot worse because we actually played a lot better than we did at West Ham. Like it was a really good performance, but the problem was we had so many chances and we could have really, gone through. And it is disappointing because like Liverpool didn't have Salah as well, and I feel like we were capable of winning that game. So I think that's why it probably hurts, because when Liverpool had their chances, they took them, and I knew that that's what would happen in the end. I don't think either team really benefited from a replay though, because I think with the Champions League games coming up, I think we've got to kind of focus on that too. But there's been a lot of questions, about Arteta at the moment, like if he doesn't win anything, should he be sacked? What do you kind of make of that statement that people are thinking about that?
Um, I don't think the statement is necessarily wrong.
Mm,
I just ask, has everything been considered? So okay, if we don't win the league or the Champions League, a fourth full season with Mikel Arteta, he won't have won a single trophy in any of his full seasons. But of course, won the FA Cup when he took over. So spent a lot of money. So okay, you can say fine. If that's not good enough, for Arsenal, with the money spent, the players they've got should have done more and achieve more success. I don't think that's an unfair reflection. But then I ask, okay, so you want someone else in? Fine. So who is that person? Are we talking a Carlo Ancelotti, who I think might have just signed on a little bit at Real Madrid? I can't remember what's going on with his contract situation, but I think he might have extended. Is it Jose Mourinho? That hasn't gone well for our recent rivals when it comes to chasing the big honours. Is it who's the next big thing? Is it promoting someone from within? Is it De Zerbi? Do you take a chance? I think De Zerbi's a really talented manager, but
mm.
is he better than Arteta? He might be. He really might not be. Like, I don't know. So are the players okay with that? Are the targets that we're looking for, the signings we want to make in the summer? We know that Arsenal get moving with all this stuff very early. That's how they secured Declan Rice, Gabriel Jesus. They put the groundwork in early. So what happens at the end of the season when we tell Osimhen, who's really considering joining, oh, by the way, it's a different manager now. He might say, brilliant, I love that manager. I'll come on board. He might also say, I was talking to Mikel. I'm not, there's so much to consider. It's so easy to just say, sack the manager because they haven't achieved things. I'm not,
Yeah.
and again, I want to stress, I'm not saying that doesn't bring us success. I'm just saying it needs a lot of thought. And the reality is, whether people like or not, we are not privy to all the information we need around behind the scenes, what's going on there, the transfer situation, all that. Now we can make an educated guess. I do everything I do on AFTV or Match or whatever without knowing a load of information. Predicting what 11 I want on the weekend without knowing how they've trained. Talking about what tactics we should have deployed and what subs we should have made without knowing the status and conditions of all those players. Like, we do that all the time. But I just think a managerial change is a big thing, and I don't think it's one that should be taken lightly, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because I know a lot of people have, asked that question, if we don't win anything, he should be sacked. And I think as well with injuries, we've really been unfortunate with like Party, with Timber, and obviously Jesus. Luckily, it's not big, but we have got quite a few injury prone players, which doesn't
Yeah.
help. And that obviously isn't Arteta's fault, it's just how the players are. But I think that's probably what makes it difficult. And I think for me, I do think Xhaka not being here Arsenal this season, we are playing different. Do you
Yeah.
think we are? Well, obviously Havertz has come in and he's a completely different player, and he is starting to have that confidence now. And obviously Declan Rice as well is being a massive player for us. So I feel like this season we're kind of playing a bit different. But for you, James, what have you made of the signings that we've brought in?
Huh. I think Declan Rice has been brilliant, like really good. He's already one of my favourite Emirates era players, and I'm utterly convinced he will continue to be. William Saliba is the other one I see in that bracket. Obviously not a signing, but just one that I look at those two and go, I'm so convinced by those guys. Timber, who was doing a signing outside the Emirates earlier, I think he will prove great, but Raya and Havertz are, and I'm really sorry to say this because it sounds really harsh, but they are proving waste of money right now.
Yeah.
Raya isn't proving a clear upgrade on Aaron Ramsdale. That's 30 million. Havertz isn't proving a good enough player, and that's 65 million. So 100 million pounds that might have made the difference in this window or could have made the difference in the summer spent, right? You mentioned that Arteta couldn't do anything about the injuries, and you're right, injuries just happen in football. But where I struggle to sympathise is when repeat patterns come in. So Zinchenko can't play against Liverpool. I've seen that before. He missed the Liverpool home game last season. Tomiyasu, he finds some form. He's playing brilliantly. I love Tomiyasu. But he gets injured. He misses basically the December period of the Premier League season. I've seen that before. Then we leave ourselves short at the back. Bukayo Saka kicked into the ground, starts losing form. I'm not surprised. And so this is where Mikel is really interesting, because you can point to so many great things he's done, but you can also point to things that I think fans have shown concerns for. All of us, we talk about football, and whoever, you see what it's like on Twitter or X, whatever it's called. People raise these concerns, and sometimes they're kind of slapped down for being negative, but other times it's like, well, no, like, I've seen the script. I've been watching Arsenal for a long time, watching on Arteta for a while now, and I'm nervous that this hasn't been addressed once again. And so, yeah, I don't really know what point I'm trying to make. I'm just saying that I think
Mm.
he. Do you know where I'm coming? Well, what do you think? Like, do you think Arteta could have done more to future-proof us this season?
I think with Rice and Timber, I think they're the right signings. And obviously Timber, we've not really seen a lot of him, but I feel like for me, if he didn't get injured, I do think he would have been probably our best signing, because
Yeah,
in that Community Shield game, I just thought he was perfect. I just feel like he did everything right. And yeah, he looked like he'd been here for years and he was so good. Obviously the same with Rice, but I think with Raya and Havertz, I don't feel like they're the right signings for us at this moment in time,
yeah.
because we do need a striker. The midfield as well, Partey's injured so much. So I feel like they probably weren't necessary. That's how I see it, because with me, I don't know what you think, but with Raya, I've said I think he's a good goalkeeper, and he's got qualities that Ramsdale doesn't have, but I still think I don't see him as an upgrade. What do you think about Raya? Do you feel like he's better, or
I totally
is it,
agree with you. I
yeah,
totally agree with you. He doesn't look an upgrade. So, he okay. I think he looks. So the whole he looks better with his feet. I agree. I've been saying that. I think he probably is. But
yeah,
I've not seen Raya play the pass that Ramsdale played for Nelson in the first few minutes of the Liverpool game. Over the top, created a chance from that. So I'd love to see their expected assists. I'll go dig into the stats for that one. But so he probably looks more secure, short passing out the back. But I don't know if he's got that range. I think he does, because we've seen him do it with Ivan Toney, right? But guess what Ivan Toney does? Ivan Toney makes your target go from that big to that big. Imagine a darts board. Imagine I told you you've got to hit this massive darts board instead of the bullseye. That's what Tony does. He allows that long ping pass to he ups its completion. So I can see why we want to add Ivan Toney. I can see why
yeah,
that's something Arteta wants to add to our game. That's fine. But then I'm a bit worried if a goalkeeper's best value is seen once the £70 million striker comes in a year later. So he doesn't look an obvious upgrade. He has done well going long to Kai Havertz. So I do think that's worked quite well. And I actually think when both are playing at their best, he is slightly better with commanding his box, Raya. I don't know why. I get the
yeah,
feeling he is more composed doing it. Ramsdale, I feel, almost has to work himself up. Like, all right, I'm gonna dominate. I'm gonna clay. Whereas Raya, I think, is better at knowing in a split second, am I get this? Am I not? What's that based off? I don't know. Probably watching him at Brentford over many years as well. But it hasn't been an upgrade for me. It hasn't, and or if it has, we're talking small percentages, and it wasn't worth the conversation, the debate, the fallout,
yeah.
everything else, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is a difficult one, because when we signed Raya, I didn't think he would take over from Ramsdale. I did think he would play a few more games than Matt Turner did last season, but it has surprised me really. I think Arteta's been quite ruthless, and for me, yes, we love Ramsdale, but I wouldn't mind if Arteta brought another goalkeeper in to improve the team. But It's really hard right now. I want to really fully judge it at the end of the season to see how it goes with him. But yeah, I think it's difficult because I feel like Ramsdale adds so much to the team. And Lucas makes an important point about changing the harmony in the team. People do think that Ramsdale kind of is a bit more vocal with the defenders. Because we saw that in the Liverpool game, how well he worked with them. And I think it's just a change to it defensively, having Raya in. But it's hard because we've not really kept a lot of clean sheets under Raya, and it does look bad on him. I do think, yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one, but I think with Havertz, it is hard because I think we paid about 65 million, and if
Yeah,
you look at it, it's a lot of money.
yeah,
And for me, when we signed him, I was a bit confused because we do need like a goal scorer because that's what we're really missing at the moment.
yeah.
Um, but I do hope with Havertz he can keep the goals coming. Like I think in the Liverpool game he had a really good game. He just couldn't score. So, what do you make of Havertz so far?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm not like sure. It's really difficult, isn't it? Because we sort of need him to score more goals because of the price tag he is, like 65 million so much.
I've been really disappointed if I'm honest. Like I try to understand the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Like I'm not writing him off. I'm not because as long as they're wearing an Arsenal shirt, I'll always have hope that it happens, that it clicks. I remember Nicholas Bentner. My word, I did not rate him. Then he left. I think he went to Juventus. He went to Sunderland, and then he stayed for another year. I think it was a 2013-14 season where Ramsey scored all those goals. And we just kept him as part of the squad because we had Giroud, and then we just went, okay, Bender will be our backup. And I remember then thinking, well, I got to get on board, and I got to hope he's right. I got to hope he is the player we need. And so I'll always try. Like I'll go into every game if Havertz in that team, going, okay,
Yeah.
come on. I hope this when it clicks. I hope this when it happens. But I'm not seeing enough.
Yeah.
His best performance for me, his like a legitimately good performance he put in was the Community Shield up front. And I thought he did well away at Luton, held his own at Anfield. But yeah, 65 million you're not looking for, did well, held his own. You're looking for a difference maker. And I know that football values have inflated so much thanks to Mudryk being £100 million worth of very little. Anthony doing very little for his price tag. Jadon Sancho, I know that these other signings have skewed it slightly, but still, I would have thought. I thought Arteta and
Mhm.
Arsenal would have spent that money more securely. I think they'd have gone for someone. I thought they'd have gone for someone that is Tarak is saying, "How dare you disrespect Lord Bender?" I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, but it's what I mean. The hope in you, the Arsenal fan, in you always wants to sort of believe and go, "No, look, there's another gear for them to go. It will happen. It will click. They might be 32 and pass it. And you go, no, but it will be fine. And sometimes they surprise you. I was very unimpressed by Jorginho at Chelsea. I thought, good player.
Mm.
That's it. He's all right. He's playing better for us than I remember him playing at Chelsea. I didn't watch them every single game, and I didn't always pay attention to everything he did. But I'm certainly like, oh, okay, this aging midfielder who doesn't feel like the right profile of six we need is surprising me. So sometimes that can happen. But yeah, Havertz has struggled. I do think if Arsenal moved on Eddie Nketiah,
Mm.
got the money to sign a midfielder and sign a proper eight, Havertz could do a job as a squad player striker. And by do a job, I mean be a handful at the back post on crosses and hopefully improve from that. Because he's not, I will say, he doesn't shy away from duels. He gets stuck in. He works hard. I'm
Yeah.
not taking any of that from him. He genuinely has a go, but I'm not seeing enough quality for me. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think because of how much he's cost, really, I can't say at the moment he's scored enough goals or he's impacted enough for us to be, happy with it. But yeah, I think the Luton game, I was really impressed with him because when we really needed someone to change the game, he did with that goal he scored but I think we just need to see it more often. I think, especially in the cup game, if he would have scored that goal, he would have gone up in our estimations a lot more. But yeah, I feel like I see him as like a project player. Like, say with Xhaka, Arteta really turned his career at Arsenal around, and he made him a better player. And I kind of think maybe Arteta wants to do that because at Chelsea he was really struggling with confidence, and he's come to Arsenal. He did struggle with confidence to start off with, and he's sort of growing into it a bit more now. But I just
Yep.
feel like we've needed a striker for the longest time. I'm actually bored of saying it. I'm sure you are on AFTV, but I just feel quite tired and bored. But I think for me personally, if we bought a striker, I don't think that solves all of our problems because, like, we everywhere on the pitch, like on the wingers and midfield, we are struggling to score goals. So I don't feel like it's just a striker position.
No.
Um, but for you, like in the transfer window, I'm not really feeling confident about it. If I'm being honest, like it's been quite quiet. Do you see us signing any players?
No. No is the honest answer. And I'm sorry, I know that will burst the bubble of some. Not that I have any information, so don't let it burst your bubble. This is just purely feeling, gut feeling. I'll tell you what I do think. Actually, in fact, I haven't even said this on AFTV yet. So here we go. Let's explore some of my feelings from around the office today. I have a feeling that everything in this transfer window is too quiet. Everything is really, really quiet. Like,
Mm,
why are you not doing nothing? Like, I know FFP it's doing this thing, but it's not. FFP wasn't invented this month. Clubs knew. Clubs knew when they were
yeah.
spending money in the summer what their FFP situation was like to look like in January. So here's my theory. And I don't know if this applies to Arsenal. I don't think it does, but maybe. I have a feeling that there are a few clubs that might be in a little bit of FFP pressure, and that might spark opportunities in this window that the big clubs and other big clubs are maybe just patiently waiting for. I'll give you some examples. Newcastle. I wouldn't be surprised if one of Isak or Guimaraes are gone by the end of the month. I would be in terms of like, that's a big footballing story and that's kind of drama. And I didn't expect that a month ago going into the window. But I wouldn't be that surprised now with everything you're reading about. They have to basically sell to buy. They haven't sold very well recently. They can't sign Dominic Solanke and things like that. Everton, Alex Crook was saying that Branthwaite is a player they might have to let go of. This is a club who, you know, are trying to dig themselves out of a relegation battle, but are also battling off FFP and all the lawyers. I think Forest might let go of, is it Mangala, who might go to Juventus? Like, there's a few. And then you look at Liverpool, who definitely need one or two players. Arsenal definitely need one or two players. Chelsea can't help themselves. They always want to spend money. Who else have you got? City, I feel like their squad is brilliant, but maybe incomplete by a player or two. Will Ineos and United want to get the first signing of their era going? Aston Villa have a great opportunity to cement, Champions League or at least European football. Would they not want to add another player to get that done? And I just feel like all those clubs are way too quiet, way too quiet. So it wouldn't surprise me if City signed Jared Branthwaite for 40 million out of nowhere, or if Guimaraes went to PSG for 55 million out of nowhere, or Arsenal found a really good young fullback for 25 million out of nowhere. Or if Eddie or Smith Rowe went to Villa. Smith Rowe to Villa, I don't think is beyond the realms of possibility. So it's a pure gut feeling based on nothing at all. But normally when you have a quiet window, you get lots of reports filtering through. Arsenal looking at this player, they probably can't do it. Arsenal they probably can't do it. It's actually kind of radio silence from all clubs. It's
mm,
utter radio silence. And that tells me there's some behind the scenes plotting, because that tells me that clubs are purposely keeping a lot of
mm.
information. Just a feeling, just a theory, just a feeling. But what do you think? Is there some legs to my
It's
theory?
been very quiet. I kind of think it's been too quiet. Like we've heard nothing. Like I kind of forget it is the transfer window because it's been so dead. Um, I'm not really confident that. I think if we do bring players in, it probably won't be Ivan Toney. I think it's really difficult because I feel like for him, it's probably more likely to happen in the summer, possibly. But I do think we've got to change things because if we do win against Crystal Palace, we could go on a great one. Rich will really help us, but we do still have problems with scoring, and we really need to sort the midfield, especially with Partey. We do struggle with that. But like you mentioned, Jorginho, I think he's quite underrated. Like you said, I think in one of your podcasts, you said apart from the Spurs game, he's doing really well, and I agree. I don't think he's really put a foot wrong. I know that. I think it was the Liverpool game he played in, and I just felt like the midfield was so well balanced. It just felt right. So I feel like if we can keep him, this season, it depends on what we do in the summer. But yeah, I really like him. I think with Chelsea players, some of them have been crap, some of them have been really good. So it is quite hard to find that mix of getting the right players. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think we just need to make a few signings ideally, but I'm not really feeling confident. But for you, if we didn't bring anyone in, do you still think we've got a chance with the league? Because I know at the
Yeah.
moment people are seeing it more as we'll just get the top four.
Yeah. I thought at the beginning of the season till about 3 weeks ago, after the Fulham game, I decided that we weren't going to win the league. But I thought before that we would.
Mm.
My predictions were this is our year, we're going to do it. Now I'm not massively away from that opinion. I've just leaned more towards it'll probably be second. I think City will nick it. De Bruyne has come back in the most inspired way possible, and City they've held on. They've stayed in the fight with Stones missing most of the season, with Gundogan and Mara's gone, with De Bruyne injured for a lot of the campaign, and there they are still clinging on, and now looking more primed to go on a run. So I don't think we'll finish. I don't think we'll win it. I think we'll finish second. But I think this squad, when everyone's fully fit, is capable of doing it. I really do. I think a starting 11 of Raya or Ramsdale, take your pick, with White, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber. Quite frankly, Tomiyasu could play for any one of those four and would do a good job. With Partey, Rice, Erdegaard, Saka, Jesus, Martinelli, I wholeheartedly believe that 11 can win the league. I really do. I really do believe it can. But it requires Jesus to be more prolific. It requires him to. I know people are going, well, so it can't then because Jesus has never proven to be prolific. That's not true. Jesus has that goal scoring runs. Last season, he started at a decent rate for us. When City were in that Champions League run the summer in spring before they sold him to us, he was scoring goals against Real Madrid and playing his part. So Gabby Jesus is capable of putting the ball in the back of the net. You just need to find that consistency. If you get Martinelli and Saka sharp again, if Partey stays fit, if Timber stays fit and returns the way he should, if Zinchenko Tomiyasu can play a part and stay fit, we need Vieira to blossom because I think there's a talent there. Yeah, I really think we're capable of it. I really do, but that's a lot of ifs. That's a lot. It's not a big if to say if Rodri stays fit all season, that man is always fit. The only time he's not available is when he's put his hand around someone's throat. Like otherwise, he's available. With us, it's Partey kicked a balloon and now he's out for 4 months. Like it's
It's
like
ridiculous.
like with us, you just like you say if because you never know when that phone is going to ping and the news is, yeah, player out for 3 months. Timber, MCL, 60 minutes into his debut. Jesus barely played half a season before he, got a serious knee problem. It's just like, oh my word. Now, while I've said that Arteta could prepare for others, there's also some that have just been really unfortunate. But if keep them
Yeah.
fit, I think we can have a successful season. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah, I agree with this one as well about Saka. I know you mentioned him before, and
Totally.
that's. I feel like that's people have complained that he's been poor, and I'm not denying that he's not being how he usually is, but he doesn't ever get a rest. He plays every game, and is bound to, run out of energy at some point. So I do feel like yeah, I do feel like we do have a bit more of a better squad than last season. I don't deny that, but I just feel like if you look at Man City's bench, if you look at Liverpool's, that's probably where they're stronger than us in that sense. So
Yeah.
And I do agree with you about Smith Rowe. I think you make a good point. I do see him. I could see him going to Villa. It is difficult. I don't, he doesn't get much game time. I know Arteta brought him on in like the 88th minute, which I wasn't a massive fan of that. I'm not going to
No,
lie. I
me
don't
neither.
think
Me
he
neither.
could. Like, what can you do when you come on in the 88th minute? You can't really make an impact, can you?
No, totally agree. Totally agree. I've been very mystified by some of Arteta's use of players. You know, some people say it's ruthless, and then I go, well, where's that here? So Smith Rowe, he sort of fell out of love with last season. Okay, he
Yeah,
had injury problems and whatever, but when available, didn't really use him. Reece Nelson's had really good impacts off the bench, gave him a new contract, convinced him to stay, barely used him when we need him. Kieran Tierney, he couldn't have talked more highly of in the opening, year, 2 years of his time at Arsenal. Used him as a left wing back, left centre back, really kind of, at one point, you felt our only way of attacking was going down the left with Kieran Tierney. Then he moved away massively from all that. But then you see other players where I'm thinking, you're taking way too long to see that this isn't right. So there are things with Mikel that I struggle with that
yeah,
make me go, I used to trust that he always knew what the squad needed. And that trust is still there, but it's waning slightly. I'm slightly
yeah.
less. I used to think if he's got rid of a player, he's done it for the right reason. Like I will trust that he has thought about this all and that is the judgment he's come to. But I'm now more like questioning of certain things, let's say. And listen, that's normal. You lose 3 games and people start questioning things. Unfortunately, that is just how football works. But Smith Rowe's a great example. Smith Rowe comes into the team. Suddenly, Arsenal put a few wins together, and Arteta is keeping his job. So you gave him the number 10, you gave him the new deal. So what hasn't, apart from the injuries that have halted his progress, Smith Rowe, what is he not doing that you need him to do? What's Havertz doing that Smith Rowe isn't? Now, maybe there's a good reason.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a good answer, but I don't know the answer.
Yeah, it is difficult because, like, obviously, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We don't know if Smith Rowe's fitness is, good enough for him to play like 17 minutes or at least come on for 30 as like a substitute. But you know, it just feels like Arteta's not wanting to play him, and I don't know why he does get picked over Havertz. Like I know Havertz has helped us with some goals, but I just feel like I think a few seasons ago we were really struggling, and a lot of the experienced players were kind of letting us down a bit. And then Smith Rowe started playing, and then we picked up our form. And I just feel like he could have that same impact again. So yeah, I do hope he gets more minutes. And I did think in the FA Cup he would have actually started, considering that Reece Nelson and a few others got that opportunity. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he left, and I wouldn't blame him because he's not
Yeah, I
really got the
agree.
game time that he deserves. And it will be. I think if he left, I would be quite devastated because I know how much he loves Arsenal. He wanted to be a legend, um. But yeah, it's really
Yeah.
difficult right now, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's also like there's the sadness for the player and all that, but then there's the, you know, is this a talent we're letting go of that we're going to regret? And try and think of any player Arteta's let go of that has gone on to better things. Like when we let go Guendouzi, a lot of people felt,
Yeah,
Arteta, you've let go of one of our most promising young players for hardly anything because you weren't happy with his attitude. I wouldn't say Guendouzi's career has blown up since leaving Arsenal. He's not making us feel like that is some great disaster of a situation. I'm trying to think of others. Leno hasn't really made us feel that way. Aubameyang's doing
yeah.
well at Marseille, but I don't. As much as Aubameyang is a better goal scorer than anyone we've got, I never felt the team and the system would benefit with Aubameyang here. So
Yeah, they've not
yeah,
really gone on to do a lot. Like, there's not like, say, if you look at Van Persie or Fabregas, they obviously went on and were successful. But in our case, it's quite a good thing, like that they've not, gone on to do well.
yeah.
You know
Özil's
what?
another one.
Yeah, I know it's quite strange. I think with Aubameyang, I think because of everything that happened. think in the end it was probably best for it to just go like separate ways. But yeah, I think with the Guendouzi one at the time I was unsure because he was such a fantastic talent. I know that Spurs game where we drew 2-2. I think he was just such a joy to watch. So
He's
I
brilliant.
think his attitude did let him down a bit, and we could have been a fantastic player for us.
Yeah, yeah, and when you start strangling Mope or whatever it is he did,
That
well,
was ridiculous at the time.
I had an issue with that, and out he went. It's interesting to look back on some of those things, knowing what we know now.
Yeah.
Like Xhaka also put his hand up to the neck of a Burnley player, and there wasn't as much fallout. I don't, like I said, there's always fine details we don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Do you know what's funny? Like looking back around that time, I remember we used to have like every game would get a red card. Do you remember how bad our
Yeah,
discipline was? Now it's so much better. I think that's like a lot of credit to Arteta because I remember one of the games we had, I think it might have been 2 or 3 players sent off. Like the stress they caused us during that time was
do you remember the
terrible.
Wolves game where Bern Leno decided to just handball it out the box? And although
Oh
the
my
David
god.
Luiz one was a joke, that was one of the
Oh my
worst
god. Do you know
games
that
in
game?
my life.
I've never felt so angry.
Yeah,
Like
that's the biggest refereeing injustice I felt for all. Well, I say that. I also think. Sorry, I'm just adjusting my mic. I also think the Man City game was really frustrating. Do you remember the one we lost 2-1? I felt the referee had a shocker
oh,
in
that
that
was
one.
that really.
And also, there was another one where the Martinelli double yellow.
Oh, that was a
Like
bit silly.
the
Like
Michael
not on
Oliver
Martinelli,
classic.
but
Michael
yeah.
Oliver just making up the rules as he went along. I'm going to give you 2 yellows for this. Like, what? And give a second yellow to someone who doesn't know he's on the first yellow. Like, really, really strange. Really
It
strange.
they've done us dirty so many
Yeah.
times. Like I think I know of the Wolves game, the one with the David Luiz. I I think they definitely sent him off because of what he's been like in his past with like his errors that he's made. Because in that game he didn't even touch him. Like I'm sure the
Yeah.
Wolves player actually got him, but I remember I just couldn't do a video after. I was like, you're so angry you can't talk. I was like me.
I was shocked. I was genuinely staggered. I thought, wow. And we had VAR then, right? So VAR could have intervened. Like it wasn't one of those where you go, oh, the ref's been conned by a dive or something. It really, really strange. Really strange. But
It's kind of nice to look back and like see how far we've come because I know we did win the FA Cup during like lockdown time, which was incredible. But like looking back, I honestly thought like there was a season where we started off and we lost our first 3 games. We were in the relegation zone, and you kind of feel like, where do we go from here? Like, isn't it nice to feel like now we're in a place where we're challenging? I know we would love to be at the top, but I do feel like we have made a lot of progress.
yeah, well, our struggles now are very different to our struggles then. Now it's, oh, we're 5 points off top. Back then it was, oh no, we're 5 points off safety. Like, it's come a long way. But it's like, I hope people don't take this too negatively, but it's both, you could both really see how far we've come, take that in, appreciate it, respect it. But I'd also be disappointed if we weren't at this stage. Like
Yeah,
I'm proud of the work we've done, great stuff, but also any short of this, I'd be disappointed. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? We haven't won a trophy in 4 years. That can happen. We haven't. Well, like it's fourth full season for Arteta. I expect us to be in the title race, and I expect us to be in the Champions League. And while there's been things that what's happened is there have been moments that have made us think Arteta is that guy, having 50 points after 19 games, the halfway stage. That made us really
yeah,
believe like he can build a super team. Winning the FA Cup in his first 6 months, the football we played last season in general, getting the youngest squad in the league to the brink of Champions League football, albeit yes, threw it away. These things are like moments that you think, okay, like we were really close to actually doing something we perhaps didn't expect. But now I'd say it's all kind of leveled out. We've had the real high with some highs that I think we all thought were better than they were. We've had some lows that probably weren't as bad as we thought they were. And it's kind of plateaued to where we are now, which is in a title race, but a little way off. And there's some work to do. And that's where I expect us to be. We're out of the competitions, which is cup competition, which is disappointing. So now
Yeah.
we have to work hard.
Yeah, like you said, it's really where we should be, challenging. And I did think, when Wenger left and Uni Emery come in, I didn't expect overnight success. It will take, a few seasons for it to get back to how it should be. And I think at the moment we are in the right place. But I've got to be honest, I think we got to the semi-final of the Europa League, and I honestly thought, like, I really want Arteta to bring us success. I'm trying to support you so much, but I just can't see, like, if the club's going in the right direction. So I feel like it is hard really with Arteta because I love him. I personally do like him, but he just makes so many questionable decisions, and I'm just like, why do you overcomplicate it? Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
that, like, complicated. You could just do, like, for me, if we're struggling to score goals, just bring on a few more players to make a difference. But he always does leave things right to the end. But yeah, it's a bit confusing with me because I'm a fan of Arteta, but I can see why people are questioning his decisions at the moment.
Well, I also think Arteta doing things that seems a bit strange. When you apply it to life, it's
Yeah.
not that surprising. I mean, you're still studying, aren't you, Soph?
Yeah.
So do you ever like do maybe loads of studying and loads of past papers or whatever, and you start making really silly errors, and you realize it's because this is like your 20th past paper in 4 days. Like what I'm trying to say is, like, in my day to day, like, I could tell you something that happened at AFTV. This stays between us and everyone watching. I missed a show. It wasn't actually for AFTV, it was DR Sports. I missed a show. I was meant to be on the weekend preview on DR Sports, and I missed it. I just completely forgot I had it. That's like such a stupid thing for me to do, right? Totally out of character and just an idiotic moment. But sometimes when you're thinking of loads of things to do,
Yeah.
when there's a lot going on, when you've been sort of working hard, then we know the Christmas period is busy for Christmas, for football, and it kind of goes on and on. Sometimes your brain just drops something. And I don't think we should be surprised that Arteta, football's relentless, from the amount of fixtures to the training to the press conferences to the transfer staff to the academy development to whatever. He's the manager, not just the head coach. He's the manager. He's involved in all of
Yeah.
it. So, maybe he does have a few, for want of a better phrase, brain farts in games. Maybe he does get to the 70th minute and go, I should have made a change by now. Maybe he does bring on Trossard, sees that we've lost our pace down the left against Fulham and go, I really should have brought on Nelson. Like, why did I that might happen. And we're able to look at all that forensically and go through it with a fine tooth comb. Is that the name of what it is? Like, to just go, we're able to sort of break down and almost evaluate every decision like he would have spent 10 minutes considering every possible,
Yeah.
aspect of that decision. And the answer is that won't always be the case. There'll just be bad moments. There'll just be decisions. There'll be he tried something, it went wrong, and he couldn't get it right. But that's why I'm always a lot more critical about things like the Kai Havertz signing than
Yeah.
a defeat against Fulham. Football can happen. You maybe got things tactically wrong. You lost the game. But committing 65 million, having a load of phone calls and consulting a team to end up with a sign that hasn't made much of a difference, I'll be more critical about that.
Yeah, I think with the transfers with Edu and Arteta, I think we're quite lucky because I think most of them have been really good. Like for me, Tomiyasu is probably being one of the best because when we signed him, I will be honest, I was like, I didn't know much about him and I thought it was going to be someone we've not heard of that isn't very good. And he's came over and he's been absolutely phenomenal. Like Gabrielle as well. So I do feel like we've had a lot better transfers. Like we've obviously had the Williams, which obviously, that didn't work out as how we wanted to do. I think with me, I think David Luiz got better at the end. I kind of felt sad when he went because he didn't
I
make
like
his
David
money.
Luiz.
Yeah, I felt
I like
like
him.
yeah, I
Yeah.
felt like when he played in the City game, he obviously made a mistake, and he actually came out after and he said, "I want to do an interview because I've made a mistake and I want to like take that responsibility." So I felt like he really was a good player. I like that when players take that accountability.
David Luiz is very disrespected. Like,
Yeah,
and I'm not saying he was brilliant for us, but if you look at his career, he's sort of seen as a bit of a joke defender. Like, oh, he's good on the ball, and he had some moments, but he wasn't that great. This guy was part of a Champions League winning side, FA Cup winning side, Premier League winning side. You know, he won the big honours in England and in Europe. He was a Brazil international. He played for PSG, played for Benfica, he played for Chelsea, played for Arsenal. He's disrespected as a player. Now, I'm not saying he didn't have his moments.
yeah,
My word, did Luis have some Luis moments? But I feel like he also had those in an era where it was way less forgiving. You know, Edison, Allison, John Stones, they make errors. Now, I'm not saying they're as bad as Douglas Luiz's. I'm not saying that. But I feel like when that happens, there's an overall appreciation for what they're bringing, though. And we are now having that with goalkeepers. Oh, well, this goalkeeper's good with his feet. It doesn't matter if he's not as good with his hands. But I think that era hadn't really come for David Luiz yet, of going, oh, he had a bad moment defensively, but it's fine because look at his ball progressing out the back. Look at his leadership. Look at the big goals he scores. Look at his experience. You don't really get that. So, yeah, I feel sorry for David Luiz. I actually think if he was playing today, he'd be a lot more respected.
yeah. I don't think he got that credit he deserved. Like I know when we signed him, Chelsea fans are probably thinking like we were a retirement club. And do you know what? He actually did really well in the end, and I was quite sad to see him go because I feel like he was like a leader. He was like an experienced player that we did need in the dressing room. But I do think Arteta and Edu have done quite good with signings. Like I know a few of them haven't been great, and someone you mentioned before, I think Vieira. It's an interesting one because a few fans, you know, might think it's been 35 million for him and he's obviously not produced what we need. But there's something about him that I just feel like he could bring to this team. I know he's been injured and that's not been great. And the last time he played, he did get that red card. But I just think for me, like I remember at the start of the season, he came on as a substitute and he really helped, you know, his balls forward and how creative he was. I felt like that really helped us. But for you, like obviously the transfer window, I'm with you. I'm not confident we're going to bring anyone in, but do you think when he's able to play, he can help us with scoring goals?
Yeah, by the way, I just want to apologize to the viewers because I'm so sniffly right now. So they're probably looking at me thinking, why does James look so miserable? I'm just struggling to breathe. No, you know, Fabio Vieira is one of the most talented. What's the term for this? I was about to say one of the most talented on the ball players, but it's like you're talking about footballers. Obviously, they're all on the ball. That's stupid. Like, if I had to see that De Bruyne pass the other day to Oscar Bob, if I had to put money on one Arsenal player to pull that pass off, it's Fabio Vieira. Now, I'm not saying he can, because to do that isn't just technique, it's nerve, it's invention, it's daringness, it's a lot of things. Um, it's consistency. But I do think he has the quality to pull something special out. I was at the Fulham game, we drew 2-2. He came off the bench again and made a really good impact. That cross he plays to Eddie Nketiah for the goal to put us 2-1 up is utterly sublime. It's utterly sublime. It's one of the best assists I've seen this season. The way he curves it low around the defense, perfectly to where Eddie's attacking, onto Eddie's right foot. So he just has to guide it into the back of the net. It's mesmerizing. If Fabio Vieira can find the freedom and confidence, and we can find the balance in our team, he'll be fine. Now, whether that means he'll get to a world-class level, be a difference maker, I don't know. But he's incredible. Here to there says it's frustrating. Vieira has talent, but the Havertz signing essentially blocked both Vieira and Smith Rowe. Well, there's still time to readdress that. There's
Yeah.
still time to ensure that there isn't a block of it, because everyone always says, can Vieira come in and be Granit Xhaka for us? He's not Granit Xhaka. But I'll tell you what I find interesting. What if Erdegaard moved to the left? What if Erdegaard, who's playing a bit deeper these days, combine more of that left-hand side, receive passes off Zinchenko, fed it into Martinez. There's a nice link there.
Yeah.
And then Vieira actually played out the right, where he can cut inside and play more daring passes, can be a little bit more creative. I think that works better than Vieira out on the left, trying to redo what Xhaka did. So, yeah, there's talent there. I haven't lost hope on him at all. I think I'm a long way from
Yeah.
losing hope because until I see him get a run of 5 games in the Premier League, when he's fully fit, I don't know how I can write off a player with that kind of talent. I don't feel like Arteta's doing enough to get the most out of some of these fringe players. I
Yeah.
think Kimmel is another one. I think Trossard's another. He's not getting enough out of him for me. And I
Yeah.
look at the manager more than the players.
Yeah, I think Trossard, like, I know last season he really was phenomenal, and this season I felt like, do you know when he comes on as a substitute, I feel like he makes more of an impact than when he plays the full game. And I feel like Arteta should bring him on a bit sooner, actually, like maybe the 70th minute or the 60th minute to make that impact. So, despite us struggling to score goals, we do have players that we can bring on to make that impact. And I think Vieira looks like he could be back soon, which would be good because I think it might have been the United game. I can't remember. It might have been that, but I remember um, Vieira came on and he made that great pass to Jesus, and then Jesus, took that chance, and he just helped us create something a bit different. Because I don't know if any other players would have done that pass, but I do feel like he will help us. I know fans aren't too sure, but I'm with you. I do quite like him. I'm going to answer this question. Could
Yeah,
Vieira be similar to David Silva or Bernardo Silva? What do you think?
he won't be as good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We'd have seen more. If he was going to get to Bernardo and David Silva's levels, we'd have seen more from him. But if you're talking profile, style of play, yeah. Yeah, I think that's somewhat comparable. I think Bernardo Silva has enough dribbling, technique, ability, drive to play out on the right. David Silva would play out wide at times, but was more of a creator, conductor type. I think Vieira can be a real final third output machine, but again, not to their levels. But I
Yeah.
think he's very talented, very very talented.
I think it'd be hard to get to their level, really, like considering how good they are. Yeah, in terms of profile.
Yeah,
Um,
Luke.
I wanted to read this one because I think it's quite a good point. Trossard was so good at false nine, even the Fulham game this year where he was hooked. Leo put three beautiful passes on a plate for Saka and Havertz, because that's the big thing, Crystal Palace, who are we going to have in that position? I don't really know at the moment. I mean, I know Eddie's not being playing as much. He's sort of being on the bench, and I don't feel like he can really I know this sounds quite harsh, but with Eddie, feel like when he's got a chance in the box, he can score them. But for a lot of the time, he'll go missing for like 80 minutes, and that you don't know he's playing. But for you, who would you put as a false nine for the game?
Jesus, assuming he's fit. Trossard, otherwise, I think Trossard is closer to Jesus. Havertz over Eddie. So that's so Jesus, Trossard, Havertz, Eddie for me is my.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned before with Eddie, I feel like now feels like the right time to sell him and get money, because we do need money to bring in players. But I also feel like when he's been playing, he's not really done much, and I feel like I'd
Yeah.
rather just get the money from now. And I do know that him and Jesus aren't going to win us a title together. We do need to bring in like an Ivan Toney or whoever people want. But yeah, I feel like with Eddie, I would rather just get the money. I know there has been offers in the past, and I kind of wonder why we haven't taken them, because we should just get the money for him, right?
Yeah. It's a really strange one for Arsenal to be so reluctant. I mean, I know I gave my little transfer window theory earlier, but from what we know factually, Arsenal have been reluctant to get rid of Smith Rowe, Eddie Nketiah, Reece Nelson. They tied down, which, okay, I can understand because that would have been a free transfer. But like, why? Okay, they made it through Hale End, great. And that's fantastic. And for that, they'll always have my support, Arsenal through and through, all that. But they're pure profit. They are pure profit players. It's like FFP dream. You let two of those go this window, right? Say Eddie and Smith Rowe. What are you getting for them? Maybe 25 million for Eddie, maybe 30 million for Smith Rowe. That's 55 million in your pocket. Pure just profit done.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why we're so reluctant to do those deals. Maybe those deals aren't there to be done. Maybe clubs are only offering 10 million and we're saying no thanks. But I'd be surprised. I think we've turned down decent offers for both, in my opinion, over the years.
Yeah, like you said, that's like a good amount of money, and you can go and get a player like we have been linked to Onana from Everton, and like you could use that money to get him. So I feel like that'd be a good choice. I mean, you've kind of answered this. You said about 20 million. I'm with you. I would probably say around that. I don't think you could really get an awful lot for Eddie.
I think you
But
could get 30. I think you
yeah,
could, but but that club has to really want him. And I know that's an obvious thing to say. A club that really wants him pays 70. But what I'm saying is, in a realistic world, a club that goes, Eddie's the guy, that's who we want to sign as our number one target. I think they pay 30 to 35 because I don't think he's a talentless player. I actually think he'd score quite a few goals in the Premier League if he were in a team that focused on providing the goals. He is, at Arsenal, the striker is expected to contribute to the overall play, and Eddie does that the least of all our striking options, in my humble opinion.
yeah. Do you think we could get that much for Smith Rowe, 40 million? Because that's a lot. I think that's quite a lot. I see that as
Well,
yeah,
so
go on.
as that Anthony says,
Yeah.
30 million, 30 million for Eddie, Smith Rowe 40 million, stop devaluing the players. I mean, like, I don't think that's not doable. I think it is.
Mm.
I don't think that's crazy. But Aston Villa spending 40 million in January on a player that might start for them.
Yeah.
And then so you got to ask, there's this saying that I'm sure everyone knows, something is worth what someone is willing to pay for it. Smith Rowe is worth 150 million. If someone is willing to pay that, then he's worth it because they have put that money up. So my question to Anthony would be, who's paying that? Who 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 is who is definitely who's both got the money to pay 40 million for Smith Rowe and he then improves their team. So Villa sit in this bracket of they probably could afford 40 million for Smith Rowe, but he doesn't improve their team. So do they spend it? That's where I think it gets difficult. And that's where I think you knock 10 million off probably a few of our players for what they really should go for, because
Yeah.
a lot of them aren't going to be the difference makers. Or I don't know. I yeah.
Yeah. I think I've come to a point now where I think I'll accept like if Smith Rowe goes, because I feel like for me, we just need that money. And I feel like for Smith Rowe, he might be in a better place if he does go. I think it all depends on like the rest of the season. If we don't, if he doesn't go on loan, or if he does like in January, if we don't get the money for him, I just feel like if we did get rid of him in the summer, I think it would be a bit disappointing because Arteta could have gave him game time, and he could have, I know he wanted to be like a legend of the club and he wanted that statue, and he loves Arsenal, so it is kind of a shame. But yeah, I think we've got to see what it goes. But I feel like if we could get that amount of money, that would be ridiculous. I think our fan base is in for a rude awakening when we barely make back the 24 million when Ramsdale was sold. Yeah, I mean, do you see Ramsdale was like, if say Ramsdale doesn't get much game time as it is for the rest of the season, do you see him going in the summer?
Yeah, he has to. He has to. But it'd be a shame. And Raya really needs to become the goalkeeper that we thought we were getting. But yeah, and by the way, that's not beyond the realms of possibility, right? Goalkeepers can have slow starts at clubs. That's not that surprising. David De Gea had a terrible start to life at Man United, and end up being the guy for a
Yeah.
long time, becoming one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Raya gets there. But Ramsdale will leave, and I'd be disappointed if we got any less than 40 million, in my opinion, for him.
Yeah, I think it will feel like a real shame because we've kind of built this connection with Ramsdale. We've seen him kind of grow. I remember when he first came, how much hate he got and how he overcame that. And I just feel like last season, it's just a shame he couldn't win a league because I thought he was excellent. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he left. I know for England as well, he'll probably want to not be number one. It's quite hard to get that position, but I know that before Raya got his opportunity, he was playing for England. So I do hope he does have a successful career if he leaves us. But it would be interesting to see where he would go. I don't know where he would go really. I mean, I know United, Onana's not really working out for them, but I wouldn't see him going there. It'd be interesting. I know Chelsea have been linked with him, which it will be interesting to see.
Chelsea.
Yeah, it would. Oh, it'd be quite hard to watch that. I'd be
It would
so.
be. I wouldn't be surprised if West Ham paid 50 million for him. Areola, I think, is doing fine, but it's been between him and Fabianski, who's aging. They've been in Europe for several seasons now, West Ham. I could see him spending 50 million, 40 million. I don't think that'd be crazy, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me as well. Do you think though, since Arteta's been here, haven't we gone through so many goalkeepers?
It's been a problem. It's been
Yeah,
a real problem position for him. Real problem position. You can't spend the amount of well, not so much the amount he spent on goalkeepers, because that hasn't actually even total to that much. But you can't sign the amount of goalkeepers you have and have that lower hit rate. Like, you just can't. Martinez looked the guy, but you let him go. Leno was the guy for a bit, wasn't the guy. Ramsdale you signed, wasn't the guy. Runnison, poor. Matt Turner, poor. Now Raya. And it's touch and go. That's a real
yeah,
problem for him.
yeah. Exactly. Oh, this is a really good question. If Arteta left tomorrow, what would you both think in his best lasting legacy at Arsenal? That's actually a good
Um,
question. You go first, James.
Well, it's a really good question. Sorry, I interrupted you there, Sophie. His best lasting legacy would be he gave us a team that we genuinely had hope for again,
Yeah,
and he took us forward. And I know that's a very low level answer, but that would be it. He took us back forward. People took us seriously again. People started talking about us in title races, and pundits were predicting us to win it, like Gary Neville. That would be his lasting legacy. Made us competitive, and and with that comes all the love and the support and the trust and all that. So yeah,
yeah. Because I remember when we were like a proper banter club, like it was actually quite a joke to be seen as that club, and now we are taken more seriously, which is like it's so amazing. And I'm with you. I think, especially last season, no one expected us, even probably us, didn't expect a challenge. I just went into the season saying top four is a must, and if not, we'll talk about that then. So to see us, challenged for such a long time, I felt like it was just so incredible, and I actually enjoyed the football we were playing. That was like probably another important thing. We went to a lot of
yeah,
teams, top six teams. Like I know we drew at Anfield. We actually beat Liverpool at our place, and I know when we went to Spurs, I think Spurs away really impressed me because before we struggled
yeah.
to go there. Yeah, so I feel like
Brilliant. That was
I
a
feel
brilliant
I
performance.
feel like last season has been like one of the best seasons as a fan, like recently, because I know it really sucks how it ended, but we were really like competitive with Man City as well. You look at how much money they've spent and the players they had, and we nearly kind of overtook them. But it is a shame, obviously, that we weren't able to do it really.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think he might have, I don't know, got the owners a bit more fired up as well, in a good way.
Yeah.
They spend money, they back the team, and I hope that doesn't live and die with Arteta. I hope if Arteta's not the guy, they continue to back whoever that next guy is to try and get it right.
Yeah, I do hope, Arteta is the guy because he has taken us quite a long way. I just sort of worry that, the mistakes like we've spoken about that he makes, like how, like, say we're in a Champions League game, we're in a semi final, and he makes a mistake that kind of cost us. I worry about sort of those situations, but I do feel like he's done more good than bad, really. I know we've had some really tough
Far
seasons
more,
where, yeah, I
far
do
more.
feel,
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure, for
yeah, I
sure.
do feel like like I know in the Europa League we haven't been successful and we didn't go very far, but
Yeah, that was bad.
I think, oh God, you know what? The fact we're back to the Champions League, it feels like a dream
Yeah,
come true.
it's true. Yeah, I totally agree.
It is nice because we've kind of wished for this for like a long time. So I'm really, really happy that we're back kind of where we belong. Now, I'm going to end the stream in a few minutes, but before I do, I know, James, you do have your own YouTube channel. I'm loving what you're doing. Do you want to let people know a bit about what you do on it?
Oh, that's really kind, Sophie. Thank you. What do I do? I just make like 10-minute videos on football. It's not all Arsenal related. Some of the Arsenal stuff will be clips of my best work on AFTV. Sometimes there'll be new thoughts, doing a lot of stuff on other clubs. So if you like football in general, I'm talking about it there. Got some ideas for stuff in the future, so look out for that. But yeah, I'm doing that. The big thing I really actually am really going to push is my podcast. So I basically do a daily Monday to Friday, uploaded at 6 a.m. every weekday. It's just a podcast talking about the latest football news. It's a way to sort of tune in to what's been going on. It's called Football First with James B. So if you're interested in that, have a little listen. But Sophie, I'm really grateful for you having me on and also shouting out my content. I really appreciate that. So thank you. It's been good to chat. We needed this debrief.
Yeah, we need we need a little therapy session to get over everything. But yeah, keep up your great work, James. I do love it.
Thank you.
Big thank you to all of you that have asked us questions. Thank you so much. It was lovely to see you all in here and chat with you guys. But fingers crossed we'll win at the weekend. What are your score predictions for the game on Saturday?
Big response, 3-0. Why not?
Oh God, this one's hard now.
I know it's hard, but yeah, back your team. By the way, apologies to everyone that I've been sniffling throughout this whole show, but it's winter.
I
It's
think I'd probably say 2-1 Arsenal. I think we
nice.
can win. I just feel like we will concede two, but fingers crossed we'll get back to winning ways. And a big thank you again to everyone that watched it. And yeah, I will see you all in my next video.